Today, it's Edwin's Monday evening property rant. Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Welcome to this post covering finance and property news with a distinctively Australian flavour. It's Monday, and guess what? Edwin's with me. Hi, Edwin.
G'day, Martin. How you going?
I'm pretty good. How are you going?
Mate, I'm going all right, but the market seems to be in drive and in reverse. It's every which way but lose. That's all I can say. Every which way but lose.
It really is. There's a lot going on and a lot of weird dynamics. Thought listings going up rather than down, more people trying to sell rather than not, some prices going up, some prices going down, rentals going down. I mean, wherever you look, there's movement, there's action.
Oh, there is. It's a stairway to heaven for home prices in a lot of areas, and it's a highway to hell for the apartment market and arena. So it's at the end of the day, it's both roads are paved with good intentions, or shall I say, both roads lead to hell and are paved with good intentions.
Well, that's right. Yes, it is certainly interesting. I mean, destination, we're not sure where, right? And of course, the change to the vaccine rollout or not, and that means the borders will probably stay shut for longer, which means that effectively the migration will be lower than previously. Also means international students won't be back. I mean, those factors will have an impact on the property market as we go into the latter half of this year and into next year.
Well, they will, and one of the things that I've learned also today from my Chinese whispers is the fact that because of the issues with the rollout of the vaccine, the elderly or say applications in the tribunal to take care of the elderly from family or relatives has now moved from a whole year to they're giving them duty of care or carers duties for 5 years because the tribunal's so backlogged with it, and they don't feel that the elderly are going to be also vaccinated in time, and things are just increasing. So there's a huge backlog in the tribunals, and all these issues materialize and have an impact on the property market because it means that there's more delays in properties coming on market or homes that people are looking for. The backlog with NCAT with regards to eviction notices as well is going to all that's done is just created a stopple at the moment with regards to eviction notices, but now that the applications are in the tribunal and they are hearing them and they will get through them rather quickly, now they can evict tenants, and we might see a huge drop in, when I say drop, I mean a huge volume of new listings coming on market for apartments. So that's what I'm hearing, Martin, from the powers to be and Chinese whispers in the tribunals.
Well, I'm certainly seeing that through my surveys. More property investors now have decided to bite the bullet, put their property on the market, in some cases, as you say, because they've been able to get their tenant out. I was talking to somebody today who's actually got a property close to the centre of Sydney. The rents have dropped 13% in the last quarter. And there's such high vacancy rates, 5.5 to 6% there, which makes it very difficult now to essentially deal with trying to make the investment property sing, right? And so, the conversation goes along the lines of, well, I'm sitting on quite a lot of equity at the moment. Maybe I should get out while I can and capitalise on it before things get worse. So I think it's going to be a really interesting few months. And, whether the trajectory will turn with regard to property prices or will they go higher, maybe freestanding homes will, but I think the apartment market is continuing to go south.
Well, that's right. Look, it is a two-speed property arena. As I said, one's in drive and the other one's in reverse. and it may appear that once turbocharged, but sooner than later we're going to get that big drop. And as I keep on saying, one of my colleagues, a good friend of mine that manages a big rent roll, or with an office with 300 and something agents, they themselves have something like 2,400 apartments for sale. So but they're not all listed, obviously, but because of the fact that if you were to list them all, well, obviously then you've got a choice of not only one or two in a block, but you've got a choice of 10 or 15, even 20 in some cases, because there are so many available. There's a lot more to play out, as you and I have said, Martin, with regards to apartments. We haven't spoken about it in detail, but there's a lot more to be said, and a lot more is going to happen. And I do believe our friends in the ABC are going to put out a report with regards to the slow apartment market, and how it's going south. And that report should come out sometime this week. But the mainstream are picking it up now. The results in a lot of areas for apartments are certainly going south. A lot of my colleagues that are still selling and are trying to sell apartments, they just get, their offers seem to get lower and lower by the week, if not by the month. But then again, you've really got to have balls of steel to jump in and buy in an apartment with all the uncertainty around construction, around strata levies, or around the issues that owners corporations are yet to face, because there's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to be able to recover the money that they've lost with regards to the government not being able, stopping people from being evicted, the eviction moratorium, and all these other things that government has put in place. But not only that, but you've also got overseas investors that haven't had the incomes, the rental incomes, in order to contribute to the owners corporations for the special levies and other levy that's being raised in order to maintain the block. So you've got to be game to want to buy an apartment. Either that, or, as I say to friends and relatives, either you're really game, or you pay 30 to 40% off the value where they were a couple of years ago, because it is a huge risk. It's fraught with risk. And the AFR, interestingly, put out an article. I don't know who sponsored that article, but I have a guess as to who sponsored the article, that investors are coming back in droves, and they're looking at the future low stock in apartments. I don't know where they got that idea from, other than the fact that it was sponsored by a fellow called Harry.
Well, yes, we won't mention the 250,000 units across the country that are still currently under construction, nor will we mention the high vacancy rates in the existing stock, particularly in the high-rise stock. There's so much oversupply. So the last thing you want is to build yet more of the wretched things at the moment. That just seems to me to be very weird. But as you say, there's a lot of noise in the press about this from the AFR. And, of course, Domain as well. They actually went as far as giving quasi-financial advice.
Look, I really hope that our friends have in AFSL, because I can see them getting in a lot of hot water. I mean, that is the way I read that tweet from our friend Pleb Capital. It was rather interesting, because it's really telling you how to invest and how to pull equity from your principal place of residence or any other investment that you may already have. So there are a lot of questions around that premise and the position that Domain have taken, Martin. So it just raises more questions than giving people answers.
Well, yes, I mean, they have a relationship with Lendi, which does have a license, so they could perhaps argue that off the back of that they're able to provide the advice. But to my mind, it is certainly quite close to the wind in terms of some of the things they're saying. And it go back to that sort of point about, both the AFR and Domain are saying investment property is the way to go. Well, there's a big question there. And I suppose we should also talk about the mix. The old granny's flats are popping up everywhere. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, look, there is a demand for them again. But people better start building them a lot quicker than what they than what they had planned, because timber's gone up by 20%, as we mentioned, and we broke the news a month or so ago with regards to the timber prices going up. The of during the over the weekend, from our last talk, Martin, I've come across two developers, one building 32 townhouses, another one building 7 townhouses, and guess what? They've run out of framing timber, and now they're looking at finishing those developments, or continuing with those developments with steel frames. They've got no alternative, and we can only see that construction costs are going to go up. So if you've got plans in the pipeline to build granny flats, or you're going to buy something to build get it built real quick, or start making some mud bricks to finish the damn things, because it's going to be very costly, and there's going to be a short supply of material.
And I've had half a dozen conversations with my one-on-one clients, and all of them have told stories of where they've committed essentially to buy a new property. And in the last month or so, the builders come back and said, sorry, we can't actually keep the existing schedule that we actually agreed to. And by the way, the costs are going to go up. So suddenly that certain, construction time frame and that certain price are both up in the air. And of course, whilst the government handed out a certain amount of money to help with that initial transaction, now the additional cost that they're being asked to face, both in terms of time and cost, means that it's no longer making a lot of sense.
No, it's not. It is rather interesting. I think the Current Affairs are going to bring out a show tonight. We tweeted that out. Sent you the tweet with regards to some poor bastard that bought a house off the plan, and you got half a house. I think that's going to be the first of the many hundreds, if not thousands, of properties popping up all over New South Wales. Half-built homes, or at least you got half a house. It looked complete from the outside, just was half a house. Look at the advantages of that, Martin. You only need half a bed, and you only need half the furniture.
Well, I suppose if you've got half a house, you've got plenty of airflow, which might be good for COVID.
Yeah, you've got a bigger yard. You can play cricket.
Now, there's another interesting conversation we should have about the industry, the real estate industry, because according to MPA, one of the banks has actually started offering commissions to real estate agents for leads relating to mortgages, which is quite interesting, right? And you wonder again whether they're actually skating around the legislation or not. But the idea that a bank is going direct to the real estate agents to try and get them to provide the lead direct to the bank and chop out the broker is an interesting development.
Well, it is, and you've really got to ask yourself the question: why are they doing it, knowing that the brokers or the channels are going to be really upset with the existing channels, whether it be brokers, as in mortgage brokers, and you've got obviously the quasi mortgage brokers / real estate agents by stealth, the accountants and financial planners. But you're going to upset these groups. So it would only appear that they're going back into in-house representatives. And one of the reasons why they did that in the past was because of all the shenanigans and all the shortcuts that a lot of the brokers were taking. That was one of the things that came to my mind. The other thing that came to my mind is there's not a lot of transactions happening, Martin. There's a lot of paperwork, and I know quite a number of brokers that are, they're really, really busy, but they're busy doing paperwork, but there's not a lot of transactions going across the line, because as evident with sales as well, that the sales, there aren't as many. Hence the reason why I keep on saying that the real estate industry is really suffering. The sales agents are really suffering, and you'd find that in a lot of the suburbs, there's one or two offices that are dominating those areas, and the rest haven't had listings for anywhere between 3 and 6 months. Or if they've had a listing, they haven't sold it because it's overpriced, or the vendors are wanting too much, or for whatever reason it just doesn't suit the price point in most cases that people would want to pay for that property. So it sits on market for a very long time. So So having a lot of listings doesn't necessarily mean that you're also going to get paid, because you get paid when you sell. So low volume transactions, the actual transactions, is putting a lot of pressure both on the on mortgage brokers as well as the selling agents. So they're the two things that I could think of, and it's trying to create an extra, to give the selling agents that extra bit of income on the side in order to throw business their way. So I don't really get it, because it's really going to peeve off the mortgage brokers and those channels, the existing channels that they have.
Well, it's interesting because the other part of the article made the point that this very same bank was deliberately slowing up applications via the broker channel. So, in other words, if you went via the real estate agent direct to the bank, they would be able to fast track your mortgage application. If you put it through the traditional broker channel, then it's a whole lot slower. So it does sound as though they're trying to do a sort of a bit of industry tweaking and essentially cut the mortgage broker out. The maths don't work, to my mind, very well. But then the other point is, of course, that the mortgage broker does quite an important role of thinking about the different potential financing options that may be available. And that doesn't mean from one lender, it means from many lenders. Whereas if you're going directly to the lender, then suddenly you as a buyer may not be getting the best deal. So, you've got to be a bit careful here, because you could end up effectively being captured by a lender that is doing a deal at less than the best price in the market.
Well, not only that, but also the entire deal sits with that particular lender, and you could end up, as you said, being also cross-collateralized with all your other mortgages as well if you've got more than one property. Look, it's obviously a controlling factor, and one of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons in the past why banks have wanted to control mortgages is because of the fear of what's around the corner, and the biggest fear that a lot of people have at the moment, and institutions have at the moment, is how big this bubble can continue to be inflated before it pops, and when it pops, how far is it really going to drop? So, but once you've got control of an individual's entire property portfolio, whether it be one or two or three properties, well, then you're in control. You're as an institution, you've taken a better position, rather than having to deal with a second bank or a second mortgagee, and then it becomes, litigation becomes another factor that only dwindles away the equity that there may still be left in the property.
Yeah, and the final point to make on this one is, of course, the Royal Commission highlighted all of these back channel payments and all of the below the surface relationships that weren't obvious to the borrowers when they actually took their mortgage, and yet now the industry is going the same way again. So, once again, it's the same old, same old. Things are happening, and they may not actually benefit the borrower. They may benefit the bank. They may benefit the real estate agent, but not necessarily the person buying the property. So it's worth just asking the questions if you're getting yourself involved in some of those conversations. Now, let's just move on then to on the ground, Edwin. There's a really interesting story here, which I'd like to go into with you, because basically the message is, you snooze, you lose.
That's right. You snooze, you lose. That's right. So this goes back to what we've been talking about for a very long time. What you and I've been talking about, and that is being prepared, and preparation obviously eliminates a lot of the emotion that's around auctions, or buying or selling property for that matter. It's something that knowing your position, knowing the professionals that you're working with, and how quickly they can work for and on your behalf will determine whether or not you avoid a lot of those pitfalls when it comes to going toe to toe with developers or other people with deep pockets on the days of auction. So in this particular case, we identified a property for one of our clients. It was a low-key marketing campaign because of the nature of the property and the nature of the individual that owned the property. So it had to be low-key, but we knew about it, we were informed about it, and our client was able to move fairly quickly because we used the right professionals to undertake the all the due diligence in order to secure the deal. Now, I knew who our competition was. Well, we were informed who our competition was, and I knew that that those cogs would turn a lot slower than what we could get our professionals to do things. And bottom line was we got the contract on we got the contract at 5:15 on an afternoon. We last week we were able to get it vetted by our conveyancer, one of our conveyancers that we work with very closely with, and she was able to get back to us give us the green light that everything was okay in the contract by 7:30 that same evening. 7:45, we were signing contracts, and early next morning they were delivered and presented to the agent. And now she obviously sought any other offers from the other parties. They weren't ready. They wanted more time. The owner wanted to move and needed to move quickly because of the circumstances that they were in. And look, we got in, and in the afternoon, the agent was in a heated conversation with the developers because they were saying they could offer more and this and that, but it was too late. The owner had made a decision, and there was a time limit on it, and we were able to get it. So the bottom line is that you've got to be surrounded by good professionals that will work in your favor and not against you when it comes to dealing or negotiating with property, and to try and get the deal done in most cases before things get heated on the day of the auction.
Yeah, well, the old adage about the bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. This is a good example, right? So you had all your ducks lined up, ready to go, and the developer was claiming he needed more time and could offer a bigger price. Yeah, sure, in your dreams. But the fact of the matter was that the money on the table is the deal, right? And I think there's an object lesson there because, things don't have to take weeks and weeks and weeks, and you don't have to get into extended negotiations and backwards and forwards if you do the work. I just make the point that not many people do, and so they get into sort of these doom loops of cross conversations backwards and forwards and multiple people being played one off against the other. But there is a different path, isn't there?
Look, there is, man, and this was I say to friends, family, and clients. You need to get professionals that are going to work for you, not against you. I presented another deal to another client, and I said, you got to be quick, but you've got to be prepared. Look, in this particular transaction, it's something not everybody would do, but given the nature of the individual, the fact that he's got cash in the bank, everything lined up really well for him, and I said you've got to be prepared to release the deposit in order for the owner of the property to be able to buy in the South Coast, because the longer they wait for the settlement, as it means that the property is down in the South Coast. The acreage that he's looking at is really, really highly sought after at the moment, and within a month or 6 weeks, there are 42 days of settlement. Properties there are racing, from being worth 700, they could end up being worth 900. So if you release it now, obviously this is something that. It's not legal advice, but it's just the strategy that I feel comfortable. I said, but you need to clear it with your solicitor. The solicitor was adamant he wasn't going to move, and we lost the deal because the solicitor didn't want the client to move. Now I've secured a lot of deals. Taking this approach, but making sure that everything is, all the checks and balances are in place. The simple fact that that the owner of this property that we were looking at purchasing for this, for our client, it had no mortgage over it. So there wasn't, well, look, I can't say that there wasn't going to be any issues, but the chances were going to be very, very slim. But in this case, I question his position, but look, I wasn't going to go against his legal advice, the position that he took. But it's just an example. In other cases, we've done the same because of the nature of the transaction, and you're able to secure the deal for that simple reason that they can then move on and secure their property because they know in the regional areas and in these or in another case they're looking at the owners are looking at buying in Queensland, and the market up there in the area that they're looking at is very hot at the moment because it is a very it's in a community or in an area where there's limited you can't build anymore. They're literally you just can't build them unless you knock something else down and build a duplex or something. So it's there are certain pockets where the market is really taken off. So it's just a strategy, but you've got to. The key point is that I'm making is you've got to have all your ducks in a row. You've got to know that the professionals that are around you are going to work with you, not against you. But more importantly, in all these cases, I've always made sure, and whenever I look for property for, as I said, for family, I always make sure that we've got what we can rely on a valuation that can be held and can be presented to a bank. In other words, a valuation that the bank will accept, not just a CoreLogic one, or not just a desktop one, or not just one provided by CommSec or by the mortgage broker, whatever they want to take you to, but something that the bank is any bank or any banking institution is going to rely on, because if you don't have more in your piggy bank, if you don't have more tucked in underneath your mattress, should the valuations come in short, well, you could come unstuck.
Yeah, and it goes back to this very important adage about being prepared, putting all the ducks in a row, and making sure that you've got the right professionals for each of the element in the transaction. And, rather than just sort of doing it all last minute and, you sort of rush around trying to find one of those, you actually plan it ahead. And, there's a really, really important message here, Edwin, isn't there, about planning ahead, being methodical and laying the foundations appropriately. And I think that that's a really important piece of advice for anybody who's entering the property market, whether it's the first time or up or down trading. Do the work, lay the foundations, and make sure you've got all the moving parts nailed down so that you can then move as you need to.
Well, look, exactly. And this is something that, unfortunately, I come across a lot of people in my travels, I'm not saying clients, but in terms of as you meet people at auctions, as you meet people and just general travels, and you meet people all the time, and when they start talking about property and you find out they've attended 2-3 auctions and themselves, and they're nowhere near ready to buy, and if something landed on their lap, they just don't, they wouldn't, they're unable to take the opportunity that may be presented. There are many strategies. It's hard to teach somebody a strategy, because it all comes back to experience and the amount of time that you spend, and you just got to judge and read the moment and take charge of the situation and be in control. But if you're prepared, you stand a better chance of grabbing a hold of the opportunity that comes your way.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. And it's not on one hand rocket science, but on the other hand, it makes such a huge difference. And even simple things like making sure you've got the information with regard to planning and the local authorities, the flooding, all of those other things too, so that effectively everything is actually there and ready to go, because otherwise you can get caught up, and then if you get caught up, then things can get slow and you can effectively end up having to pay a lot more than you might otherwise, or even not get the deal. So be prepared.
Well, that's right. Look, and I'll tell you a funny story, man. You know how much I like funny stories.
Of course.
This is an individual that I know, and making a decision between different products to finish of all things a granny flat, and it came to do you build it as out of just a brick veneer? Do you build it out of Hebel, or do you just build a frame and clad it? Cladding side of things wasn't going to work because of uh, the location and the temperature, the extremes of weather. They came back to Hebel and brick. Now I recommended Hebel uh, because of the properties, and I've liked Hebel for quite a while. I enjoy working with Hebel, and I find that the quality and properties are really are great. Now, and the reason why I also recommended Hebel was because in terms of the internal uh, space, it meant only losing a couple of square meters, and now a couple of square meters in a granny flat makes a big difference. So, as opposed to losing 5 square meters if you build it out of brick veneer, out of brick. So I made my recommendations. The real estate agent that was going to be leasing once the granny flat was being completed was going to be leasing the granny flat. Also recommended Hebel again because of the properties, and he knew of other buildings, other granny flats in the area that had been built out of Hebel as well. So then, he said, "I'll come back to you guys the next day." So he did, and he said, "Oh, I'm going to go with brick." And I said, "You're going to go with brick, but we're not." You heard what the agent said. The extra 3 square meters that we're going to gain out of here will make a big difference in the type of tenant, or in the tenancy scenario as well. Not only from temperature wise, but also the tenancy. He goes, "Yeah, but one of my family members said that we should go, brick veneer." So I said to him, "Oh, okay. So is he an engineer or a builder?" Like I didn't know you had a family member so close to you that was in the game. And he smiled. He goes, "No, no, he's a chef." A
Well,
lot of
okay, so we're going to take the advice of a chef as opposed to somebody who's been in the property industry for a long, long time. Yeah.
moral of the
Interesting.
story is if you get professionals to give you advice, get the right ones.
Well, yeah, I can imagine a few chefs who would love to give some valuation advice on property, but I'm not sure I'd take it.
It's just the quirks of the industry there. And look, I'm not one to give advice on other things, man. But property, I can stand my ground. But there are obviously other things where I'm sure people laugh at my my advice as well. So, like we all do. But the bottom line is seek for the right professionals that are going to work with you, not against you, and that are going to lead you in the right direction. And I've heard, like you've heard also, Martin, and that is, with regards to all the rumors, all the Chinese whispers, and all the WeChat chatterers that we've been discussing, how the apartment market is yet to play out. Now is really now I feel we've got 2 to 3 months to really monitor what's going to happen now that JobKeeper has ended. Now that obviously the government's looking at specific industries to continue to throw money at that particular sector, but then you're going to have which sector is it going to be? Is it too little, too late? There's a lot that's to be played, but now this is where we said this is now where the rubber meets the road, and we're going to see how it all unfolds moving forward. And again, 2 3 weeks for the last 3 weeks, I've had a close eye on the numbers of the new listing numbers that come on. And last week or this week was an interesting week. because we got a lot more than what we did in the previous 2 to 3 weeks, as they were dropping back to listing numbers that were closer to the beginning of the year, and now we're back up to where we were 5-6 weeks ago, and it's only a matter of time now to see how many more listings and new listings come on, particularly homes or freestanding homes, but also now we're going to start keeping an eye on apartments, because I think they're going to start rolling out, and there's going to be a lot more showing up on the market for sale than what there were before.
Well, I agree with that, Edwin, and certainly seeing that in my surveys and in my conversations with people. So I think this market is definitely not going to sleep over the winter. I think we're going to see some significant developments. I also have the view that we won't see significant home price growth. We've had a bit of a spike, but not uniformly. But I think it might ease back with the supply-demand disequilibrium that we're talking about here. So interesting to see. As always learn a lot from these conversations. So I appreciate your time tonight. And I guess we'll do it all again next week, Edwin.
We definitely will, Martin. We definitely will. And make sure you start getting the mittens out. Things are getting cold now. And you can't get up that early in the morning now, and I've got to start looking for a new hot water bottle to snuggle up to at night, because it's getting cold now.
Well, I think maybe some Hebel will be the answer.
Oh, Hebel! I've got Hebel on one side, Dusty and Evan on the other.
Edwin, see you soon. Thank you very much.
All the best, Martin.
Cheers.